Hey guys, welcome to Good Morning Marketers. I'm joined today by Robbie Owen, who's a digital marketing executive here at Mitchell Stones. And I know if you guys have been watching the last few episodes, we've been talking about quite a lot of topics really. We spoke about lead generation, human positioning, etc. It touched on a few of the areas of the marketing framework that we use here. But really what Rob's going to be talking about today is helping us understand, what do we even need to be thinking about before we start building out campaigns with the objective of actually winning, essentially getting more conversations in our pipeline for potential clients that we can go on to future and to win. So first of all, Robbie Owen, welcome to your first Good Morning Marketers.
Good morning, Josh. Great to be here. Yeah, it's the first for me getting involved with something like this, but
First
excited.
of many, mate. First of many.
Absolutely.
But look, let's kick this off then. So lead generation is a phrase that's kind of chucked around marketing world like no tomorrow. What is lead generation kind of in your view?
Lead generation, well, clues in the name really. Essentially, it's finding leads for any business. But first, it's about finding the right person for the right business. So you can go out there and find any old leads, any old people, but are they right for that particular business that you want? So first, we've got to think, what problem are we trying to solve?
Yeah.
So the pains that client is experiencing, or their customers of that client are experiencing. And then get the right messaging across to draw out the right people who are going to bring some actual value into that client. So we can go out there looking for all sorts of people, but we need to nail down exactly what sort of people we want to talk about or find. Are they right for our business? And then basically connect businesses with those people.
Completely right. And I think, we talk about this a lot, businesses, many businesses focus on the features and the benefits, right? And almost like push our customer service is next to none, unparalleled. We've been going since 1972. We've got the best products, the best service in the market, etc. But I know that one of the messages that we try to get across is, okay, great, you may well be the best. You may well have the best customer service. You may well have been going since literally a couple of years after Jesus died. But the reality of the situation is, like, probably in most cases, competition is probably singing from exactly the same hymn sheet, right? So when you got all your competitors saying our customer service is unparalleled, we've been going to X, Y, Z, our features, our benefits, all this stuff. This is why I think partially we end up in a world just full of noise. Mm-hmm. So what you were saying there about actually identifying the right individual, and just help me. Let's go another layer on just identifying the right individual, and let's primarily focus B2B. Mm-hmm. So let's park B2B for a second. So what are the kind of things that we should be looking for to actually understand who the right individual is? Yeah,
100%. So when we're talking about drawing out the right audience, we've got to think about our targeting of that audience. How do we find the right person? We've got to think about the business we're actually communicating from. Who is going to be engaging with them? So first, looking at demographics, psychographics, behaviors. And if you can start to nail down and build out an ICP, your ideal customer profile, then you can then go about finding the right pains that are going to resonate with that audience.
Yeah.
And I think with any ads or any sort of campaign, it's relevance. So if you can identify who you're talking to and what interests them particularly, then you can start to design your messaging in order to actually draw them out. And when we talk about messaging, like such and before, customer service is, although great, and you want to have a great customer service to have to
It's kind of expected, isn't it? Like when we talk about customer service, everyone just expects it. It's
100%.
like, should we be leading with it? It's just like, well, hold on, why is that unique? It's like, well, I don't care who you are, but if I'm going to buy a service from you, I expect the service to be good.
100%. It's an absolute given. It's an absolute given. So that's why when we try to look at our campaigns, we try to look at the buying emotions, really, looking at pain, fear, and pleasure. Think about anything that we're talking about or any message we try to get across. What is going to make someone make that sale? Why are you making a sale? Is it going to be for a fear? They're scared or anxious that something's not going to happen? Are they anxious, fear, doubt, anything like that? Or when you go pleasure and you want to buy a new pair of trainers, do I actually need these? No, but you're going, oh, this would be lovely to get that. So you've got to try to think about your pains really, rather than customer service, and draw them out from there.
Yeah, completely. And so help me understand. So when a business is looking to start maybe like an outreach campaign, etc., something like that, what are the steps that you think they should be walking through prior to kind of launching a campaign?
I think you need to think about your funnel as a whole. Generally. So when you think about the lead generation process, not a case of design an ad, boom, put it out there. You've got to think top to bottom, how are we going to first find those people? That's your awareness stage. Then you need to think about what level they're going to engage with their content, bring it down into the conversions, and then, of course, nurturing those leads as well. So when I talk about that, awareness is first your outreach. It's generating traffic and driving that traffic into, say, a landing page or your website. So obviously that's getting our messaging right, making sure we're reaching those pains I've touched on before, the right audience with the right messaging to get that interest. That will generate your clicks and get you through to, say, a landing page where you want to engage with you. The second you can get your engagement with you, boom, okay, they're a bit of, it's not a lead yet, but you're starting to think, okay, we can retarget these people, or we can drive them further down the funnel, whether we try and lead them towards conversion. So you've got your awareness, driving them through onto a landing page. And this is where your data and your tracking needs to be on point. If your tracking is clear and giving you all the metrics you need to refine your campaigns and help you make evidence-based decisions, you can optimize and refine over time. And I think that's something that we find with clients is they immediately want results straight off the bat, which, don't blame them. I would as well. If you're going to pay for a marketing agency to get you cracking, you want results. But it's a process, and generally gradually refining that over time to essentially get to a point where you're generating a consistent flow of leads into the business. Yeah. And it takes time to get that engine going, sometimes quicker than others. But especially when you're building a brand new audience, or you're targeting a brand new market for that, perhaps, it takes time just to sort of first get your messaging out there, find the right people, and make minor changes at different stages of the funnel. Is your messaging right? Is that going to appeal to them? Get to the landing page. Is my landing page optimized enough in order to actually get them through? And when they land on that website, is that aligning with what that audience wants to see? And if we can see a high bounce rate, perhaps, then we know that perhaps what we're selling isn't matching the messaging that we're promising.
Do you know what? You mentioned so many nuggets of gold there. So let me tell this one by one. So obviously we mentioned the funnel. So and another word for funnel really is a process, right? I think people get hung up on the word funnel, almost as if you're trying to like shoehorn someone through a process, etc. Maybe it is shoehorning, I don't know, potentially. But essentially it's understanding what is the prospect's journey that you want them to walk through, where they essentially feel comfortable at the end, where you've touched on you've prodded them in the right places in terms of the pains, the challenges, the problems they're experiencing. You've enhanced the impact. You've created an environment where the impact of those problems, the severity of those problems, you bring to the surface. So maybe there's a bit more of an emotional connection to the messaging. If they go through that second part of the process, engagement, like you said, they're on a landing page, or fall to a specific part of the website, there might be some sort of collateral there which is elaborating on the impact of these problems. Essentially, what we're trying to do here is create some urgency, I suppose, but also bring the future into the present. And what I mean by that is that every business has problems, every business has challenges. Now, some of those challenges and problems we choose to find solutions for as quick as we can, because we perceive the impact of those problems to be, might affect revenue, might affect profitability, might affect well-being of employees, all this kind of stuff. And so I think sometimes we in our heads we have a list of our problems, but we almost like create our own order of priority. And if you've got a business which provides a solution to a problem, which might not necessarily be towards the top end of that kind of psychological priorities list of problems to sort out, the real effectiveness of the marketing comes through to how well can you position the problem, how well can you position the impact of the problem to essentially help your target individual, whether it's a managing director or a commercial director or HR director, whoever it is. How do you create an environment where that problem, which is maybe position 6, where we'll take notice and try to fix that problem at some point, how do we bump that up the list for it to become a priority right now? And I think that's what separates average marketeers with excellent marketeers, if that makes sense. And then talking about as well, okay, so great. So obviously we're on a landing page, for example. What do you want that call to action to be next? What do we want them to do next? Is it take a diagnostic on something? Is it download some sort of resource? Is it just booking straight for a call? Is it attend a webinar? What is that next piece, right?
Absolutely. And you've got to think about that based on the audience you're trying to communicate. What is relevant? You've got to think about how every single campaign is different, every client is different, and your objectives are different. Nail down those objectives nice and early, nice and clear, crystal clear. And then think when they convert, you need to also define what is a conversion in this funnel. So you think, okay, we're getting through to the landing page. Got to think of different ways in which they can possibly convert, and think about, is that how they want to communicate with you? Does that audience, are they likely to actually book a call with you directly, or are they more likely just to sort of submit a form and hope you get back to them? Might be sort of shy to go out there and go for it. But a lead can be generated in several ways. And that could be, a conversion could be from clicking on to get in touch via a phone call. It could be on that form on the landing page. And other ways as well, maybe just replying to an email. Even if you want them to go to a landing page, they might just reply to your email in the email drip. So you need to think about your audience and how they're likely to respond to you. And then that's how you can drive those replies. And then before you send those to your client, think, is that actually on profile? Are they the people we want to be connecting with our clients to actually give them real value?
And one thing you spoke about was almost like having to go through a learning phase. So can you help me understand, what do you mean by like a learning phase?
A learning phase to me, well, essentially when you're thinking about any brand new campaign, brand new audience, we haven't necessarily approached these people before. It's uncharted territory, if you will, in terms of, okay, we've designed our parameters and the strategy, and we've sent them out and we're trying to get in touch with these people. In terms of the learning phase, it's about not putting all our eggs in one basket. It's Easter times, I guess that's relevant on topic. It's not about putting all our eggs in one basket too soon. We need to refine and optimize over time. And when I say that, it doesn't mean, okay, it's not worked 100% how I want it to in month one, therefore let's change everything. It's about using the data and making evidence-based decisions to make small refinements and tweaks that when you see success, you know categorically where that's come from. If I say I have a campaign and I make 4 or 5 big changes and suddenly it works or suddenly it drops off, I don't know which of those 4 changes or 5 changes have impacted this campaign.
Yeah.
And that's no value to me or to the client.
Yeah.
The value really is, okay, I've made a few tweaks here. Perhaps the open rates on the email is too low. I've changed the subject lines, amended some of the copy and then make it a bit stickier. Now the open rates are great, but they're not clicking through still. So again, you can think back to our funnel. How do we get them through into that next stage? We now know, okay, open rates are great, but they're not clicking. Is that call to action relevant? Is that what they want? Is it sticky enough? Does that link look a bit too dodgy? Do I need to do I need to sort of have that in a format that in a different way that's going to be more likely for the audience to trust us? And when we start to see those results in the data going down, we can slowly optimize, and we use that time in the learning phase to improve. At the same time, whilst you're doing this, maybe don't use all data you have available in that first phase. If you know there's going to be some hiccups or some teething problems, not to throw all the data, all the campaign budget into it early on. We can use, say, half the data. We can use maybe a minimal budget to start with, start to see where the early engagement is. And then when we get to a point where we're happy with a consistent flow and at each stage of that funnel awareness engagement is strong, we can then look at ways to improve conversions.
Completely. And do you know what? That was brilliant. And I think what's really nice is about you explaining how to actually pick apart various aspects of the process in the sense of like where things actually not working and where are things working. Because what you mentioned there about like sometimes businesses take an approach where we'll run a campaign for a month, it doesn't work, we spin it off. It's almost like not really giving them the plane, I suppose, a chance to get off the runway, isn't it? And one thing you mentioned as well, and it is Easter time, by the way, so eggs in one basket is very relevant at the minute. But how important is it, do you think, to diversify your streams? So what I mean by that is, like, we talk about this a lot in the sense of like, not having all of our eggs in one basket, in the sense of running one campaign and the entire growth of the business being reliant on that one stream. So why do you think stream diversification is important?
I just think it's important in the sense of where are your audience hanging out online, perhaps, or where is the best place to reach these people? There's so many ways you can reach someone, and people are trying to find you, or maybe they don't know that they need you. And it's about putting yourself in different places. Maybe
they don't know that they need you.
Exactly.
Quote of the day.
So if you're talking about, say, if it's SEO, perhaps you want to make sure you're ranking nice and high. Where if they're searching anything similar, your company name is right at the top of that list, or there or thereabouts to get noticed. If it's Google Ads, it's putting yourself right in front of them when they're searching things for similar, compared to literally paying to be there. But if you're talking about sort of paid social, for say Facebook ads and Instagram ads, LinkedIn ads, that sort of thing, people aren't there to buy from you. You are plugging in these target demographics and the messaging and hope that you're going to basically draw them away from their recreational time and think, oh, hang on, we're talking about something I might purchase now. So, we've got to try and stop that serial scroller as well in paid social. So it's about just spreading the net as wide as possible, I think, generally. And if you're thinking about, again, it comes back to your objectives. So not every client is the same. Not every service mix is correct for every client. You need to sort of form a bespoke strategy that we think is going to work for that business.
Yeah. And just kind of wrap things up then, I want to talk about, so we talk about processes. Obviously, once again, a funnel can be designed for the process that you want it to be. So, sometimes we'll say awareness, engagement, opportunity, activation, etc. But you can make up what those stages are, really, depending on the process that you want them to walk through. But how important do you think is nurturing opportunities that come through these processes who actually might just be shopping around and may not be ready to buy right now? Because we talk all about nurturing and activation after, in a sense of email sequences, to kind of keeping them in the loop, looking at different content, just kind of keep people fairly engaged from afar, I suppose. Do you think nurturing is important? And if so, why?
100%. And I think it's something that a lot of clients sort of can let drop off, or possibly a lot of marketers. I think you do all this work in the campaign. If someone's not quite right or it's not quite the right time, they think, oh no, I need the results now. You don't want to forget these people they're in our pipeline. And I think it's so easy to forget these people. But what we need to do is by nurturing is, can we get them into a mailing list perhaps at the end of the funnel? Can we stay at the forefront of their minds so at a later date they're going to come back round to us? Perhaps their pains aren't relevant right now, but later on when it comes around, they're thinking, yeah, perfect, that's something for me. Or when we reach out in a few months' time, their circumstances have changed.
And what kind of like content should we be sending these people, do you think?
Again, it comes down to the individual campaign. So think about what interests them, what are we trying to get across. But it's staying at the forefront of their minds. So trying to think of some sort of example. If it's charity work and they've shown some sort of level of interest in the past, but they haven't necessarily converted, it's keeping them in the know, say perhaps for a mailing list of all the great things we've been doing recently. Keep showing their value and showing what their possible contribution could do and being a part of that, if it's from a business point of view, how their CSR can benefit from getting involved with such a thing. And
then also, so I think from a more commercial perspective, so like, I suppose when it comes to nurturing, maybe looking at resources, free resources, reactivation, a sense of like, almost like drip fed value, if that makes sense. Yep. Tip of the iceberg stuff that we like to say.
Monthly reports saying this is what sort of thing that's going on, that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. And really, I think, it's interesting, isn't it? Because one thing you mentioned a minute ago was like how sometimes in some businesses, we know the sales process is typically, let's say a sales process is usually anywhere between 3 and 6 months, right? And so that's the sales process, usually from the point of which you meet someone new to the point of which you walk them in the door as a client. Let's say it's 3 to 6 months. What I find quite interesting sometimes is when these kind of campaigns are strategized and launched, I think sometimes business owners forget that their sales cycle is their sales cycle. It doesn't abracadabra or rub a magic lamp and all of a sudden, because you're running this campaign, it just shortens to 2 or 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. So one thing I think is quite important as well is actually understanding that if you are going to invest in some sort of process or activities to help kind of feed the pipeline, I suppose, it's remembering actually, okay, well, what investment is required and what's the length of time we need to stay on this treadmill before realistically looking at the history of our sales cycles, how long it's actually going to take for us to actually win clients from this. Because sometimes what I think is like, let's say we start a campaign at the start of April and at the end of April that the campaign finishes, it's sometimes I think businesses fall into the trap of thinking, well, okay, what clients do we get from that this month? It's like, well, if your sales cycle is 3 to 6 months, it's unrealistic for you to think that you're going to close something in the same month, right?
Absolutely.
So it's almost like you almost like build out almost like a spreadsheet or some sort of tracking matrix, which plots on a graph, right? The investment here. So let's say we invest in month 1 X amount for these campaigns. We're probably not going to realise a return on that until over here. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then it's almost like plotting that.
And again, it comes back to sticking with it, doesn't it? The idea of I want results now. But yeah, if the client isn't, they know how long their sales cycle is. But then as a marketer, we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of the whole. Yeah. We need to, if you're plugging into a business as well, you need to understand how they operate, how they work, understand how their business development works. As I say, we open the doors for them to close leads, but it's up for them to get the prospect to walk through it.
Yeah.
So we can line people up, but say, like you say, 6-month sales cycle, we're running a 2-month campaign. Where are these results? Okay, but they're there. The leads are there. They're engaged with the content. They like to, but it's going to take them a little bit longer to make that decision. And it's also ironing out a process between us and between your client in order to build out a synchronized or cohesive strategy.
Yeah. So guys, there you have it. So talking about processes, lead generation funnels, things we need to be thinking about prior to launching these campaigns, I suppose. If you've got any questions, as always, feel free to drop us a message. Wherever you're watching your podcast, like, share, subscribe. Roberto, lovely to have you, buddy.
Pleasure.
Look forward to our next one. Guys, thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Marketers, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.